Hi guys, let's talk about why Europeans went out to explore. Now, one of the things we have to remember, Europeans were not the first to explore. The Chinese with Zheng He had explored longer before the Europeans, but what happened is China after his age of exploration, they turned more inward and isolationist and they burned his ships. One of the things that we have to see here are the reasons that the Europeans explored. And I will give you a minute just to look over these reasons. We're going to go in depth in a second. Now, let's talk about the first one, the political and economic competition between European empires. Remember, we're in the Renaissance. We're in the age of absolutism. These kings want to get more power. Remember Peter the Great, one of the reasons he westernized his country was he was seeing how wealthy the European powers were getting from overseas colonies. So they wanted to become rich. But this spice trade became very valuable. The Italian merchants controlled the spice trade. Now, a couple things are going to interrupt the spice trade. Remember when we did the World of 1500 maps, we saw some of these trade routes. One of the things that interrupt the spice trade is the Ottomans taking control of the Constantinople and renaming it Istanbul. When Constantinople falls, Europeans are losing that trade route. On top of it, the Italian merchants were controlling the spice trade at this time, which means if I lived in Portugal or I was an English merchant or a French merchant, I couldn't go out and have direct links to these Asian and Indian spices. I had to deal with the Italians, which was making them the goods very expensive. So the Europeans wanted to go around Africa to get to India. So the next other reason is the Protestant Reformation, this Christianity, because one of the things that happened as the Protestants and the Catholics were fighting in Europe, they wanted to take their religion and go out. You have to remember Christianity is a missionary religion. The Catholics and the Protestants were competing for converts. So they're racing around the world. This is the missionaries. Don't forget, you have the Jesuits, that Catholic religious order that was formed that became the missionaries and educators. They're going out. They will be responsible for converting Christians all over the world. And you have the Protestants going out. So just remember, and remember the Jesuits are going to go on the Spanish ships. But when these colonies are formed and these Europeans, they just want to spread that religion. The one thing you need though, even though you have all these causes, you still need somebody who can start it. And that person is this guy here, Prince Henry the Navigator. And he is so important because he is the one who starts this. He looks at Portugal and he sees that they are a poor country. He does not rule Portugal, but he is in that, his brother is the king of Portugal. And what he does is he says, we need to find the southern tip of Africa. He is never a sailor. What he does is he goes and he funds a school and he brings together mathematicians, cartographers who are map makers, scientists, sailors, and they begin to look at what problems do we need to solve to navigate. He begins to sponsor ships that go further and further and further down the coast of Africa. So Portugal will lead the way, and as a result, Bartholomew Diaz will discover the Cape of Good Hope, and Portugal will become one of the leaders in the age of exploration. Now, one of the things you also had developing in Europe is you have these new technologies. You have, for example, these triangular sails that they get from the Arabs. And these triangular sails are going to make the ships go faster. You're going to get the development of the astrolabe and the sextant, which is going to give you your position, the compass. The interesting is the triangular sail and the astrolabe are from the Arabs. The compass comes from the Chinese. Then what happens with these is you also add into that the Europeans from the Renaissance learned about perspective and putting grids, and they begin to put longitude and latitude. They developed these new technologies. Please make sure you put longitude and latitude, because that is important, because it's going to be able to tell us where we are, which becomes very important because now I can send people out and I can know I'm going to get them back. That is one of the most important things, this new technology that's developing. Remember, they get this technology from the Arabs and the Chinese, and then they take it and they make these ships. The one vocab term you have to know is the Carvel, which was this ship which had all the new technology. It had the rudders put on, it had new cannons, and the Europeans then are able to go out and explore.